Welcome to Health Tech Heroes, where we talk to innovators who are rewriting the DNA of healthcare. Today, we are excited to welcome April Reed, founder and CEO of EHR Concepts, a visionary entrepreneur who has been transforming healthcare technology training for over 16 years. April founded EHR Concepts in 2008 with a mission to make healthcare technology easier and has since grown into a nationally recognized healthcare IT consulting firm trusted by hospitals, clinics, and healthcare systems across the US. With over 2 decades of experience in healthcare IT, April leads a team that has supported hundreds of go lives, trained thousands of healthcare professionals, and served as optimization specialist for all EHRs. Now she is revolutionizing the industry again with Learnista, a custom-built LMS platform that's changing how healthcare organizations approach training. As a proud wife to Brian, mom of 5, and a faith-driven leader, April believes success is about more than business growth. It's about leaving a legacy, raising up others, and living with purpose. Welcome to Health Tech Heroes.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Happy to be here.
I am so happy that you are here, and the fact that you talk about your family and your faith in your introduction right there on your LinkedIn and being upfront about it makes you incredibly an interesting guest today, and multiple level of achievements that you have. Thank you very much, April.
Thanks so much.
16 years ago, you founded EHR Concepts with a mission to make healthcare technology easier. What personal experience or moment led you to realize that healthcare workers needed better technology training and support?
Yeah, so I got started in 2004. Actually, I was a part of the Department of Defense electronic health record, where I got to travel around all over the world, training the physicians and the clinical staff on the EHR at the time. And here in America, we didn't hardly have an EHR. So I learned early on what an electronic health record was, how to get people off of the paper chart and onto the EHR. And then when I was done with the Department of Defense in 2006 for 2 years, then I went and to a hospital in Washington, D.C., and just became really passionate about helping the users who had to use an electronic health record, whether they were a neurosurgeon or a cardiologist or a urologist. How did technology at the time make sense to them? Which we're going to talk a lot about, that these physicians didn't go to tech school. They went to medical school. And so I just grew a passion for helping them early on. And that's why I actually started my firm in 2008, 2 years later. I just wanted to help. I wanted to make an impact and to help the end users use what was being thrown at them.
That's a good point that you bring. You're trained on one thing and you're thoroughly absolute expert, but you're also asked to do something which you have no training on. And you traveled all over the world. Did you learn that how important EHR is in Department of Defense system, or did you actually learn it from other countries or other systems that you saw outside of United States?
Yeah, that's actually a really good question. It was really, really powerful working for the Department of Defense, traveling globally, because whether I was in Germany or North Carolina or Italy or Japan, it didn't matter. There was access to the patient record. There was access to prescriptions, that patients needed. There was immediate access. And if you think back in the day, we only had you can't access that paper chart. You can access something that's digital. And so I think realizing the future, back then, it was only 20 years ago, but realizing the impact of being able to access a patient's record was amazing, in order to improve patient care as a whole. And then, fast forwarding to when President Obama was mandating that the healthcare organizations go paperless. I think that was January of 2011. But yeah, it was definitely seeing the impact on how we could improve population health, patient health, when everything is accessible. On paper, you don't know if that medication interacts with that allergy if you miss it. Now with technology, right away, and so, just those little things, it was really neat to watch HRs, unfold. For me, like I said, I got the privilege of starting in 2004. And here we are in 2025. It's been unbelievable. But it's also been very painful. And that's why I started my firm, because I wanted to make it easy, which I know we're going to talk more about, but I just wanted to make it better and easier to use.
I'm sure it took a lot of courage to leave a job in DoD, which is 100% great job to retire from and go on your own, take all the immense risk that comes along with entrepreneurship. What was that pivotal moment?
Yeah. You do have those moments. I call them the sliding door moments. And I had a couple of them actually. Several come to mind that got me to where I am today. The first one goes back to 2004. I was actually waiting tables at a restaurant, and I was actually helping manage the front of the house at a restaurant. So it's like, well, how did you end up owning this huge healthcare IT firm? And I remember when I was working at the restaurant, I didn't really want to be there. And so you find times in your life where you find yourself more ungrateful and complaining versus leading with gratitude and thankfulness. And I actually went to a church I had never been to, and the pastor said, "How about tomorrow be thankful for your job? And be thankful for your boss, and be thankful for your colleagues, and be thankful you have a job." And I was like, oh, I really don't want to do that. But I tried. And within 2 weeks, somebody walked into that restaurant and said, "Do you want to teach doctors on a software all over the world?" And that was how I got my moment. Again, that was one sliding door moment, was changing everything into gratitude. The next aspect, fast forward to now, I want to be really good at what I did, because I was so grateful for that opportunity. And so when I was with the DoD, I kept getting promoted to be one of the lead trainers. I got asked to lead and train all of President Bush's staff at Bethesda in Maryland. And I really cared. I wanted to understand what the physicians needed. And then when I was working in Washington, D.C., I was actually at the Medical Faculty Associates at George Washington University. And I remember the CIO, the Chief Information Officer, came to me and he said, "Can you get neurosurgery to even just log in? Just log in. Just get neurosurgeons to just log into the application." And so I began to just go and watch and study and understand what they did on paper. And then I began to replicate what they did on paper into the system. And I would say, "Can I just show you something?" And I would slowly show them something. So I would say the other moment is understanding the pain, and then how can you, pivot to change the perspective. And then the last thing is, of course, the financial insecurity. I was a consultant and I was working and I was making really good money. So why wouldn't I just keep doing that? Because I was great at it. I was getting requests all over the country, and it was stable. It was really nice to just get a paycheck. You know what I mean? That was great. That was, yeah, exactly. Taking that step, like you asked, going back to that pivotal moment, it was taking that step to say, I can play the safe route and continue to do this independently or under somebody else's umbrella, or I can try to impact more people and open more doors for friends and families and other colleagues and other organizations with more resources, more talent, and taking that step of faith to believe that maybe I can just do this thing with what I've learned. And I gave up my day job, and kind of tried. But you don't know if you don't try. But I always went back to that sliding door moment at that restaurant where somebody gave me an opportunity And then I wanted to give opportunities back to both others, like consultants that have come through my door, but also to the clinical staff and the clinics that deserved a better approach than just forced to use something that wasn't designed for them.
Wonderful. And I go back to that moment where you said pastor in the church. Sorry, I'm using the wrong word. Was it a pastor or a
Yeah.
priest? Okay. And the church said, like, give gratitude for your job. And that was a large impact. Looks like you have pioneered the idea of gratitude as well.
Yeah.
And also, that connects you to faith. It is something that you have brought up a few times in your LinkedIn or in your profile. And also, you say leaving a legacy and raising up others. How are these concepts connected? Gratitude, anchored in faith, leaving a legacy, and raising up others. Are they connected? Are they individual? Can you shine some light on it?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for asking. I think that my faith is my anchor. My faith is Christianity, and so my anchor is Christ. But when I use the principles of, for me, the Bible, if we talk about gratitude, like one of my favorite verses says, "Be joyful always." I'm like, oh, that's hard. How do you be joyful always when things are not always joyful? But be joyful always, pray continually, and give thanks in every circumstance, for this is God's will for us in Christ Jesus. And and then another scripture is that God wants to give us abundantly more than we could ever ask, dream, or imagine. And a lot of those biblical principles are actually the same across religions. Do we believe that God wants to give us abundance? Are we practicing joy? Are we practicing prayer? Are we practicing gratitude? And so, as an entrepreneur, it is not easy. If it was easy, everybody would be doing it. But at the same time, if we have faith, then we don't have fear. We don't have anxiety. We don't have, the things that hold us back. We have faith. We have, what is that choice that you believe? And I've been up against that all the time. 16 years I've been in this business and other businesses, that have failed or have whatever. But what do I believe? And so yeah, my faith is my anchor. And I hope, the legacy that I leave is encouraging others to walk in the abundance and the gratitude that God desires for us. For my children, for everybody who comes to my company, for people that I interact with, that my shadow would genuinely impact them and push them towards, God, Jesus, Holy Spirit, whatever that is, that the legacy is more than just me and my success. Who cares? Success is temporary, but faith is forever.
Wonderful. That's where comes the leaving a legacy and raising up others. And a lot of people will care about your success, I'm sure, and I do. It's
Yeah.
it's coming from a very genuine place.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I have, like we mentioned, I had 5 kids. So I have five
Yeah,
children that I get to leave an example for. That's important. And so what example do I want to leave for them?
there are 5 other ways to be very successful and raising up 5 others, each one of them, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So EHR Concepts has grown into nationally recognized healthcare IT consulting firm. And can you walk us through what you offer and what is unique about EHR?
Yeah. So, yeah, we have 3 core offerings, and we first are a consulting and staffing firm. And I'll get into why we're different later, because there are so many healthcare IT consulting and staffing firms in this industry. There's just so many. So, we, find the subject matter experts and place them in the healthcare organizations as needed. Our second service offering, we have a command center. So, we become client facing for the client, and we can do tier 1 through tier 3 support on the applications. So if they need application support on the EHRs, their PM system, or even their patient portal, we can be patient facing. If the patients need help getting into their portal or lost their password, or if the physician, there was an upgrade and, they're having a hard time with their system, whatever the case may be. Command Center becomes an extension of that organization, and we do that. And then last is our training approach. Have a full, which we're going to talk more about, but we have a full e-learning studio, a production team, and we really try to approach training for the healthcare organizations with true transformation, true optimization, and just making a difference there. And so why are we different? I have completely built this business from people in the industry. So we have people like myself that has been in the field, that come from the field working alongside the end users. I have clinicians and clinical staff, from physicians to nurses, that have worked in the clinical side. And then I have the operational executive level where they have worked inside the hospital. So when it comes to the difference, we say we have been in your shoes. We've been in your shoes, and we're approaching it from that perspective, not just the C-suite, perspective of this is business. Instead, we look at it from every angle and understand.
Oh, wonderful. And three pillars: staffing, proper IT consulting, and learning. For the IT consulting, you said tier one, tier two, and tier three. Can you explain that a little bit more?
Yeah, so that's a help desk. I called it a command center, but it's just a help desk service. So if we have Clinic A that needs support, we would answer their phone and say, "Hi, this is April. I'm with Clinic A. How can I help you?" And so we can do anything as small as resetting a password, or as large as standing in the gap with the vendor, with a Cerner Oracle vendor, or Epic or Altera, wherever the support is needed. Our subject matter experts are taking the call. So analysts that are the help desk on the application side.
So that will be tier one.
Yep, tier 1, 2, and 3.
Okay, I see. It is just more and more support as you go into tier three.
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
Just depending on the needs that they need,
Okay.
or, a lot of organizations have a command center, and they have it for the IT side and they have it for the application side. The
Okay.
application side supports the EHR, and we can support on any level, 1, 2, or 3, depending on their need.
Oh, wonderful. And the customers, the clients for all these three verticals are very distinct, or they're the same clients that come back to you for different services? How does that work for you?
Yeah, that's a great question. They come back to us. Usually when we have relationships, we have them forever, depending on what they need, because, when you become a trusted source and they know what the quality of the resource that they're going to get, they have come back. If they're doing classroom training and they want to pivot over to e-learning, we've been there. The ideal customer profile for us falls within the EHRs that are Cerner, now Oracle, Altera, Paradigm, Meditech, Vic. I would say those are an eClinical Works. Who we support are the smaller, doc practices that have maybe 10 to 50 doctors, and then all the way up to 2,000 or more physicians.
2,000 or more, you're almost getting into health system.
We are. Yep,
Okay.
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, we've been in a lot of the large health systems.
Awesome.
But we also have clients that have, a 10 doctor practice, and they don't
Okay.
have the support staff. So we become that for them.
And perhaps the need is highest there too, right? Because
Exactly.
they cannot really afford to have a full-time team to
That's right.
support their systems.
That's exactly right. Yep. So that's where we can be their analyst and their training team.
Perfect. You mentioned supporting hundreds of go lives and training and thousands of healthcare professionals. Can you share specific win and success stories that exemplifies the impact EHR Concepts has made on healthcare organization? And also specifically, can you also define what you mean by go lives?
Yeah, so I'll define a go live. So a go live is when a healthcare organization goes live with their EHR. So right now, a lot of healthcare organizations, we call it rip and replace. They're ripping out an old EHR. So let's say they chose an Allscripts product, which is now owned by a different company, Altera Veradigm. They split up, but they're getting rid of that. And then instead, they're choosing Epic, for example. So the day they go live on Epic, everybody in the whole organization is using the new software. So they've been through training. So at that time, go lives, you have to staff sometimes hundreds, if not thousands of people across a large organization to handhold everybody, to be there for support, show them how to use the system, making sure that, tickets are reported. So a go live is, a new EHR is implemented and they are using it that day to see patients. So that's a go live. But going back to like a really fun success story, definitely this is probably one of my favorites. We were able to, there's a RFP that went out for training and transformation and optimization for one of the largest healthcare organizations in New York. And it was such an honor to win that. So EHR Concepts won that bid. And what we did is we came in to this healthcare organization, and what they needed was training and optimization transformation. They needed change in their healthcare organization, but they didn't know how. How do we train better? How do we optimize the system better? They have 70,000 employees. So, how do you do something like that? So what we do is we actually came in and we curated these town halls and these surveys and these interviews. And we went down to, one or two people within the clinic across the entire organization to gather data and to fact find and to hear the voice of the user, to then understand where is the pain point. And then we began to understand the learning behaviors. How do they learn? How are they being taught? And there's so many different behavior styles when it comes to learning and understanding the system. And then every organization has a super user. So we began to meet with the super users and then began to even study what they were trying to do that maybe wasn't well received. And then how can we pivot and activate them back into the community? And so once we began to aggregate all of this data and really begin to analyze and assess, we were able to bring to the executives our findings and our assessment. And come to find out, it wasn't the fact that the EHR was broken. It wasn't that their training was broken. It was the fact that they hadn't taken time to listen to the specialties, to listen to the different end users. They have IT training clinical professionals with an IT software, and taking into account, how do we bring in elements of getting the physicians home for dinner? And we created this, slogan on getting them home for dinner. And then in order to enhance their learning styles, enhance the learning behaviors, coming with strategies on ways to efficiently and effectively make changes in their system that made a big impact on learning. So that was just a really fun, impactful program because it was led with basically a discovery and an audit. Then it was, strategically brought to the executives and then implemented a plan where then you could measure, are we expediting the end users to get them home for dinner? Why are they having to stay and use technology so late? And it was honestly just training enhancements. It all came back to how to quickly and easily train, but making it role specific and back to the voice of the customer. That was a fun project and continues to be fun. We've done this, a dozen times, but that one was really fun because it was so big, and being able to see the impact that it made.
That's fascinating because you are so deeply involved in technology, and this is
Right.
about healthcare. And the gap was in communication. We did not listen to the end user.
Right. Exactly. That's
Wow.
exactly that's it. It's literally that easy. You think like, oh, how can we throw technology and make things better? Interview the end user. That's it.
That's
Just
it.
interview
That's
them
it.
because a provided frustrator is not going to improve patient care. And it's exactly, and or throwing another piece of technology is not going to make things faster. It's exactly
Because
right.
they don't need that layer of technology.
That's right.
And you can keep throwing all the technology you want, but that's not what they need because you didn't
Yeah.
listen to them what they need.
Yeah, exactly.
That's fascinating and brings communication is so important. The other part was I had another question for you on that part, but it is really fascinating. I will remember this aspect of our conversation very clearly because it was like such a simple solution and you needed a proper methodological way to assess this and figure it out, and which is a wonderful success story.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. Now you're launching Learnista
Hmm.
and a custom built LMS platform
Yeah,
for healthcare training.
yeah,
What was the gap that you found? A very powerful tool, and I
yeah.
presume to complement your other two services, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Okay.
So this has definitely been a passion project in the making for 16 years and really excited. We created our own learning management system. Why? Because we wanted to be able to host our own custom content for the end users if they wanted, or we wanted to be able to create a branded LMS for clinics alike where they could host their own content. We also create like 1 minute shorts on communication videos, and we're able to host that and send that out quickly and effortlessly. We're able to offer HIPAA and compliance and cybersecurity and so many other courses for our organization. And so, with all that we're doing with training, more than anything, we were able to show and measure how effective is training going to be for that organization. Healthcare is still a little old school. They like sending people to that classroom. But after that classroom, how do we know what was retained? How do we know what was learned? Did we make it role based? Did we make it specialty based? And when you do digital learning, when you do e-learning, you're able to measure all of that. You're able to see as they interact with the system, it's interactive training, were they capturing the lessons? And then the trainers inside the organization can then be empowered to go sit with the doctors one-on-one versus standing in front of a classroom, teaching them what can be online when it maybe a physician would rather train at 10 o'clock at night. But yet we're pulling them out of the clinic. They're not able to see patients, losing revenue. And then they have to go to a class and they have to stare at the computer, and so really implementing and building our own LMS to be able to just make an impact again for the end users has been awesome. I mean, we're just so excited. Learnista is new this year, and Learnista stands for the learning enthusiast. And so we really just want to transform the way care organizations are learning. That we've heard you, we understand, and we want to help.
Initially, you said that, hey, doctors are trained in the medical aspect of it. They're never trained on the technology and they're expected to deal with it as they come out of the schools. Do you have any plans to go and proactively provide this LMS system to universities and schools so that they can get trained as they're getting medically trained?
Yeah, so believe it or not, actually, EHR training has thankfully been incorporated into the universities and the medical schools, thankfully. However, they're only trained on whatever application that organization is using. So let's say they were trained on Epic, but then they get a job at a hospital that's using Oracle, Cerner, two totally different systems. So again, and they have to start the new training all over again. So I would absolutely love to train with medical universities on how to create micro bite-sized learning. So I can't remember, if I mentioned this, but basically, how do we learn right now? Why do you think TikTok did so well? Because they're short and they quickly show you how to do something. Just like YouTube shorts, now shorts are a thing. Why? Because people want instant. They show me how to do something quickly. And so that's actually what we do. We build micro bite-sized training for an organization. So if a doctor can't remember, how do I renew this med for my task list? They can just quickly search, renew a med, task list, boom. And it shows them in a minute or less how to do it. I don't know of anybody who's doing that yet, out there. I would love to get all the work, but I can't do all the work, but it needs to happen. There's got to be a quick way to not only interact with the system, but to teach things quickly and effortlessly, because that is how we're learning these days. And that's how we're drawn to learn.
I'm sure EHR has some challenges.
Oh, yeah.
growth challenges and
Yeah.
any challenges that you have faced. I'm sure as the technology is coming up and it is changing everything, how is the market responding? What kind of challenges are you having?
Yeah, I mean, of course, there's challenges every day. I would say the biggest challenges for us would probably be delivering on our promise, offering that subject matter expert. So you asked me, like, what's different about our company? Well, I am so passionate about industry experience that when we put an account executive into a new account, knowing that we are still true to our word. So I feel like my biggest challenge and I hold us back from the growth is because I will not be sloppy. I won't just throw bodies at a project. I won't throw, a project manager at something hoping it works. And so I feel like my challenge is finding the talent that can always deliver. I would rather, stay a certain size than to throw bodies at something. And so my challenge there is that when I am going up against, these huge Fortune 100 companies, they can sling bodies because of their name. But then my team is then training their team. So you come up against these challenges where we're both in an organization together and maybe I have 10 people and they have 50, but they're 50, they don't really know anything. So then my team has to carry the weight. So it's the conundrum of growth, it's the conundrum of talent. I am just an integrity leader that wants to always deliver what we say we're going to. And that's the subject matter expertise. Does that make sense? So coming back to that core of who is in my team and what are we delivering and can we deliver it every single time?
That's impressive. These two words I've rarely heard, integrity leader. I think this is the third trademark that you have. One is bringing them home for dinner. I think that should be a trademark. Then learning enthusiasm, another trademark, and integrity leader should be another trademark. So
Oh, thank you.
you like one after other. That's
Thank you.
awesome. I think my next question was on your EHR modules and Learnista, but I think you did answer this. But how is AI playing into this technology development?
Yeah. So, it's funny when you mention AI to people, I don't know about you, but like people have all these weird reactions. It's like bizarre to me. I don't know. I'm obsessed with AI. And let me tell you why. Because efficiency, effectiveness, fast, immediate delivery. And those are those things that I want to come to an organization. Everything in healthcare with technology, because your podcast is Health Tech Heroes. Well, technology is taking away the joy of leading with medicine and making sure that the patients are healthy, and I think technology, unfortunately, has put a damper on that. It's like almost suffocating the people that are seeing patients every day. But especially for us, we can come in to an organization and help them improve their workflows, help them improve their training, help them quickly improve, or go digital to e-learning, or quickly, make changes with almost little to no effort because of AI. We can say, can you just send us this? And we know exactly what we need from them. And we're able to turn things around because of AI so effortlessly. When we bring it back to them, they're like, how did you do this? You know us so well, before AI, we had to interview, we had to sit, and we had to take up more time that they don't have, when we had to just interrupt their day and interrupt their schedule and interrupt their life. And now with AI and the tools, we are able to do so much effortlessly and quickly, and enhances all of it. It enhances the technology, it enhances the patient experience. It enhances the end user's role at the organization, even if it's someone that's sitting at the front desk. All of it enhances. So for us, it's been a wonderful tool to really genuinely help them. And that's been really fun for us.
Not all. What would be advice to the leaders who are thinking about technology and implementing and going forward in the EHR world in the next 5, 10 years? And also, what is your advice for entrepreneurs who are getting into this field?
Yeah. So First question to health tech leaders that are in the EHR space or application space. I think really identifying the pain points within the organization by listening and then coming up with seamless solutions that can make a massive impact. Whether that be patient care, efficiency through optimization, revenue through rev cycle management, reducing errors, admissions time, new hire training. What is it? What is it that you specialize in? And just helping in that, with any aspect. So if it makes a difference, it will be received. So, and then to entrepreneurs at large, man, you learn a lot along the way. I wish I had learned this sooner. So I'll probably share this in my book or in whatever eventually one day. I don't think I've ever shared this on a podcast, but I really sat with this for a while. And essentially there's really two types of businesses. For me, there's the service-based business, which offers, what services do you offer? Well, we offer consultants that fill a gap for amount of time. And then there is true software SaaS, solutions or true software solutions. Well, a service-based solution, it can be very profitable, but it can also be very cyclical. So it's like, oh, well, I have all these, like, let's say it's staffing. I have all these jobs and it's a lot of profit, but if you don't maintain those jobs for a long time, then you find yourself in this cycle of have to have the work's falling off, have to have the work, find, more contracts. Oh, the contracts are falling off. So services can be very circular, and a software, I realize, can be, for the long haul in the journey. So if anybody ever wanted to think about where they are in 10 years from now, like had somebody told me, where are you going to be in 16 years from now? I would have built software or softwares a long time ago, because then I can forecast that for the future. If I have this software that delivers a solution, when I'm doing my services, I can then also roll them onto this that will create the forecast for the future. I see you shaking your head, and nobody ever taught me this. So I'm like, oh, well, that would have been nice 16 years ago had I had a platform or a software that my clients could stay on, even if it was for a nominal fee, if it was good and it would have served its purpose. So with now the LMS, I feel like I'm coming into more of that software solution space, software as a service model, and realizing as a business owner and as an entrepreneur, it's a lot more predictable. It's a lot more, financial security and linear. It's not this cyclical cycle of services. So anyways, that would be my advice, is to define what you want. If you want to be services, be services. If you want to be SaaS, or find that hybrid of both. But I just wish I had learned this even just 10 years ago or 5 years ago.
This is coming from such a successful experience, and still you feel that there was a learning opportunity for you.
Yeah.
So that's
Even
fantastic.
financially, it's like even in business, it's the rolling hills of finance. But one thing, and not to say that you can't keep everybody on your platform if you have a software, there's no guarantee that they'll stay. But from a predictability perspective, it's a lot more predictable.
Yeah, once people get used to a software, they will tend to stick around. And if we are honest to our offering, we keep updating it, there is no reason for them to leave.
Right, exactly.
As a final thing, you have 90 seconds. You can take more if you want. But if anything we have missed in today's podcast, or if anything you want to reiterate, the question is yours and the answer is yours. So the stage is yours.
Well, thank you. I can't really think of anything. The number one question that I get asked all the time, especially as a female entrepreneur with 5 children, is how do you do it all? How do you do it all? I get that. I can't even count how many times I get that question. So I don't, but I can't, I say I can't do it all, but at the same time I do. And it really has to do with who you're surrounding yourself with. And so for the entrepreneurs or the business leaders that end up listening to this, surround yourself with incredible leadership, with incredible support, with an incredible infrastructure. Create a culture where people want to stay forever. Treat your employees well, treat your clients well, treat your family well. And from that place, anything really is possible. It really is. But I think, the mindset of that and then the support system. But like April doesn't do it all. My husband does, my nanny does, my president does. Like I have an incredible support system. So I would be so silly to put this cape on and think it's me when it's not. It's definitely the support system. They're the heroes, in this story. We're able to make an impact because of who I surround myself with. And so that would be that's my advice to others is surround yourself with amazing human beings that are supportive, cheering you on, smart. Let them be smarter than you. You hear that all the time. Be smarter than you. If you're the smartest person in the room, you're in trouble.
Really easy for me to get the people smarter than me. Bar is pretty low, so I got a lot of scope there. This has been a fascinating conversation with you, April, and thank you very much.
Thanks for being interested. I appreciate it.